With the Lions coming up 3-point short Sunday against the Eagles with a 38-35 loss, what did we learn about our offense? Despite Swift having a career day, Amon Ra St. Brown tying an NFL record, what does Jared Goff and the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz have in common? They are both very rusty. Now clack your heels, Dorothy, because we're off to Oz. Roll the intro.
Welcome to Detroit!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Hat and Beard, the host of this thing. We're talking about the Lions offense in the Sunday loss to the Eagles because there were some things that were good and some things that were really bad, and we're going to dive into them real quick here. First and foremost, we are supposed to be a run-first offense, and I think we really set the tone with that. On our second play of the game, DeAndre Swift went like 52 yards. Swift and Jamal Williams had very decent days. Jamal Williams made a fine complimentary back, goal line back, short yardage back, to DeAndre Swift's electrifying, more elusive running style, more of a pass-catching back, if you will, from time to time, though. DeAndre Swift's usage in the pass game was significantly less this season so far than it was last year. I actually like that. I'd like to see our running backs, run the ball, not so much catch the ball. I mean, that's why they're called running backs, not wide receivers. All of you fantasy players are like, hey man, we love it when Swift gets 6 catches. I get that, I understand. But when DeAndre Swift can have 15 carries for 144 yards on the ground, that's what you want to see out of your running backs. Then you turn around and you compliment it. I mean, yeah, I know Jamal Williams had a drop on a wide open pass. Jamal Williams isn't known for his hands. Jamal Williams is known for his leadership, his grit, his physical running style, which is where he excelled. I mean, he had 27 yards. I think it was 27 yards on a couple of carries and 2 TDs. That's what you want out of your smash of the smash and dash combo of running backs. So I thought that our running backs looked really, really good. It's actually something that we can really kind of look as a bright spot because I felt like our running game was a lot better, at least week 1 this year than it was last year when we had essentially the same roster. Now, granted, we didn't have Taylor Decker, and I think that one of the reasons why our offensive line was so good this game is if you guys actually look at the analytics of it and the statistics, this is the first game that Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker have all played together starting on the same offensive line together. So when you have these 3 positions covered by your, I don't want to take anything away from the other linemen, but our best offensive lineman, I think Frank Ragnow is one of the best offensive linemen in the entire game. You will have a better, more productive running game, especially when their forte is bruising, is smashing, is moving the defensive players around so that your electric running back like Swifty can get shifty and cut loose and get out there. The offensive line looked good as a complementary piece to our running game. They both go hand in hand. I was very satisfied with our running game on the whole. Wide receivers and tight ends. We're just going to group this all together and call it pass catchers because our pass catchers, man, 17 drops. You can't have 17. You can't have 17. You can't have 10 drops and expect to win, let alone 17. I know a lot of those weren't necessarily drops. They were bad passes, shall we say? The uncatchable passes. But 17 drops in the box score is really, really, really bad. Now, it was really, really, really nice to see in week 1, in quarter number 1, Jared Goff taking a shot to DJ Shark deep, something that we didn't do last year until well after Anthony Lynn was removed from play calling duties, until well after Ben Johnson was established as, what do they call it, an assistant play caller, because they don't want to necessarily just call him the offensive coordinator, because in today's NFL, coaches have slash titles, which is kind of bizarre to me, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Our pass catchers looked okay, right? Okay, 17 drops is unacceptable, but Amon Ra St. Brown tied TJ Hushman's record for most consecutive games played with, I think it's 8 catches and 60 yards and a touchdown, which is awesome. I was a little concerned that Amon Ra was going to now be the cat's out of the bag about Amon Ra St. Brown. Last year it was, oh, well, he had all this production because no one knew about him. Everybody slept on him. He was a 4th-round rookie, And this year I was a little worried that defenses were going to start scheming to phase out Amon Ra St. Brown. And if Philadelphia tried that, they weren't very successful. And they have a better defense in the league. I mean, we for years watched Big Play Slay lock guys down over in Philadelphia or here in Detroit, and now he's got shipped out to Philadelphia thanks to Quinn Trisha and the just terrible decisions that they made for our franchise. But our receivers looked okay. I guess I would give them like a C grade, 17 drops, but Shark was able to get open when he when he wanted to, I guess, when the play was there. Goff missed him on a deep shot, but he made up for it later in the game. I think he had 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. That was awesome. It was good to see our passing game go vertical and score touchdowns. It wasn't necessarily great to see Goff throw an interception. We'll get to that when we talk about Jared Goff's play. But our receivers and pass catchers looked okay. Hawk, I don't know, is it TJ Hawkinson or is it the quarterbacks? Because he had like 4 catches for 38 yards. I think he was targeted 7 times. I think he was the second most or most targeted player on the team. I want to say Hawk needs to come down to those passes, but from what I've seen, Goff wasn't putting them in necessarily catchable plays. The best catch that TJ Hawkinson had was a terrible pass from Jared Goff that Hawk like flipped back to himself more or less. You know, like it was a great athletic play. That's something that we want to see out of our former first-round draft pick tight end, but we need to see that either every time the ball is thrown terribly inaccurate, or we need Jared Goff to throw a more accurate pass. So our pass catchers, we're on the right track. Look, man, I know that I don't want to put a lot of pressure and hang my hat on J-Mo coming back, but once J-Mo comes back and elevates the pass catching group, elevates the wide receiver room, we'll have a more dynamic, more versatile, a bigger threat to the NFL in our wide receiver group. I think that we have taken a step from last year, but we're still not there yet, which is kind of going to be the theme with the whole team this year. Wait a minute now there, friend. You weren't about to click off this video without liking and subscribing, were you? Come on, man. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy, dude. Just hit like and subscribe. On to the quarterback play. We're only going to talk very briefly about this because Jared Goff only played very briefly in the preseason. So really what we're getting is preseason Jared Goff. I think it was more than evident that Jared Goff was a bit rusty. He needed a little bit of oil on that old shoulder there. A little bit WD-40 for that rusty old boy. Jared Goff looked okay in the second half. Jared Goff looked terrible in the first half. And I don't know if that was because we script our first like 12, 15 games or plays of the game, and once we got into more play calling decisions, maybe Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell weren't necessarily calling the game flow. They were still trying to call more of a game script. But I thought Goff looked rusty. And unfortunately, when Jared Goff looks rusty, our whole team's going to look rusty. Because, look, man, nobody's under a delusion that Jared Goff is our franchise-saving quarterback. Nobody thinks that Jared Goff is going to be here for 10, 15 years and put 3 rings on his fingers, right? It ain't going to happen. Jared Goff is a bridge quarterback. I don't take that away from Jared Goff. He seems like a great guy. I like having that type of mentality in-house. I'm pretty sure that when his contract's up, he's going to want to try and go elsewhere. And you can't blame the man. Because obviously we know, the fandom knows, the front office knows that his time is very finite here in Detroit. It will be, he's on a contract. And when that contract's up, he's playing for a new contract, whether it be with us or with another team. But Jared Goff is, as of right now, this whole season, he's going to be the linchpin that makes our team run. And our team will go the way Jared Goff goes. If Jared Goff plays well, our whole team will play well. If Jared Goff comes out and he plays rusty, and he's got 8 yards in the first quarter, and he throws a pick 6, well, guess what? Our team's going to lose by 1 possession, because that 1 possession was absolutely crucial, because unfortunately, we don't have the most elite defense yet, and at least in last game's situation, our defense was a terrible mismatch against the Philadelphia Eagles offensive unit. Jalen Hurts could take advantage of it. We'll talk about that in the defensive breakdown. But Jared Goff is the linchpin for our team. How Jared Goff goes is how we go. So if Jared Goff is rusty, we're going to be rusty. If Jared Goff is elite, we're going to be elite. What I really would have liked to have seen was more Jared Goff in the preseason to kind of knock that rust off. But, we got what we got. So hopefully he polishes it up. He comes out against the Commanders in week 2 and looks good. They don't have... Chase Young is technically on the PUP or the injury reserve list, which will benefit our offense because we won't have that elite rush edge. Now, granted, let's be real, guys. The Commies have a pretty decent defense, and their strength is more so on their front 7. So our offensive line will have their hands full, but we have a top 5 offensive line, possibly even the second best offensive line in football. We should be able to handle those guys fairly well. So hopefully Jared Goff can right this ship and come out next week looking crisp, looking clean, looking not rusty, looking not Tin Man. Following off the heels of that conversation, let's talk briefly about the offensive line. I know this isn't something most people like to talk about, and today we don't have much to talk about because there was nothing bad that our offensive line did. Yeah, with Halapalutavati Vaitai out, with Tommy Kramer out, Logan Stenberg had to come in and play, and he had 2, I don't want to say they were bad penalties. They were back-to-back false start penalties, and for the guy in his first career start, going up against, a more elite defense, the lights were on, man, coming right off the heels of Hard Knocks. The lights were on, the lights were bright, so you can't fault the guy for having 2 false start penalties, but he didn't give up any sacks. He didn't really give up too many pressures. He moved guys around when he was supposed to. He did his job, which is the most that you can ask for out of offensive linemen. Look, man, you have a job to do. Go out there and do your job. Put your hat on a man and move him. Get back into your stance and protect your quarterback. It's not rocket science, and our offensive line did a great job. I talked about earlier on in the video when you have our I'll say our pinnacles of the offensive line. There's 5 players, and it's hard to say that 3 are the most important because it kind of discredits the 2 interior, your guards. This game, Logan Stenberg and Jonah Jackson, because Jonah Jackson's actually really good. He went to the Pro Bowl last year, and Stenberg did okay. Plus, when Halapalooza Vaitai comes back, that will be a huge bonus. But when you're Taylor Decker and you're Frank Ragnow and you're Penei Sewell, all whom are former first-round picks, all finally get to start for the first time in their career together, you're going to have an elite offensive line. And our offensive line looked elite, and it was evident in the running, in the box score, in the rush statistics. When you can put well over 150 joint rushing yards as a team, when you can score 2 touchdowns on the ground from within the 5-yard line with your power back. Clearly, your offensive line is doing what it's supposed to do. We're a fundamentals team. We're a rush-first team, so we got to have a strong, smart, and physical offensive line. And I think we have that. Our offensive line, I would give them an A grade on the day. I mean, they were probably our best unit on the field all day Sunday. Bar none. There was no one unit, one group, one classification of player that did better than our offensive line. I mean, DeAndre Swift looked good, but you could say he was held back by Jamal Williams. He had a drop. He didn't have as many touches, as much production as you say, to really boost the team up to a 200-yard complete game on the ground. But you know what? Our offensive line is essentially the heartbeat and the engine of this team. I know I said that our team will go the way Jared Goff goes, but if our offensive line can't keep Jared Goff up, whoa, what do you know? Jared Goff's going to be on his ass all day. So our offensive line played great, and that was what we expected, but also good to see. My takeaways from the game, there's 3 of them. Number 1, Motor City Dan Campbell's going to keep rolling the dice. We don't call him Roll the Dice Dan for nothing, but unfortunately this game, I think he outcoached himself. Namely, and this is what we've all been talking about, is that onside kick. That onside kick was a terrible decision, man. You put your already struggling defense onto a short field, and then you asked our offense to come out and play catch-up with a Corvette. That's not going to work, man. But this is who Dan Campbell is. This is how he's always been. And I think a lot of us were worried that between year 1 and year 2, he was going to get a little less aggressive and not roll the dice so much, which is what we loved him for last year. It didn't pay out last year. And the one time he's done it so far this year, it hasn't paid out. But I think this is just who Dan Campbell is. Dan Campbell's going to roll the dice because go big or go home. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. But, it was frustrating because we lost. But if we'd won, we'd be heralding it. So Dan Campbell outcoached himself a little bit, but that's just how it's going to be, man. That's just how it's going to be for the next few years. And I think the more that we embrace it and the less we try and fight against it, the easier it's going to be, and the more faith Dan Campbell will have in making these decisions to roll the dice, like the onside kick, like going forward on 4th down. So if we support it, maybe he'll support it, maybe the team will buy into it, maybe we'll become that team, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I want it to happen, but I don't know. So Dan Campbell, I'd give you you and the coaching staff like a C grade on the day, man, because you made some adjustments, but you still lost from making some poor decisions. The biggest takeaway was probably what I said earlier on, and that is our team will go the way Jared Goff goes. If Jared Goff is rust, we're rust. If Jared Goff is great, we're great. But unfortunately, that's how this season's going to be. You've seen it Sunday against the Eagles. Our running game was great. We had 17 drops in the passing game. Not all of that was the wide receiver's fault. Some of that was Jared Goff's fault. Our defense couldn't make enough plays to get off the field. So what we need, I'm sorry, Jared Goff, I didn't want it to come down to this year, man. But we're going to need you to go ahead and drive that Corvette, man. I'm going to need you to hop in and just mash on the gas, dude. You just got to get in that and just hit it, man, because we're going to have to be in track meets probably the majority of our games. Because every quarterback has some mobility. Not all of them are Jalen Hurts. This week it'll be a lot different with the double left-footed Carson Wentz. Unfortunately, unable to get off the field as regular as we would like. I'm going to need Jared Goff to be elite all the time, man. And I know that's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. But that's unfortunately what we're going to need if we want to make a run to the playoffs, is we're going to need elite Jared Goff, not, working at your local deli Jared Goff. And finally, the last thing that I want to take away from this was I might be buying into it too much because I want him to be great. But, man, if DeAndre Swift plays like this every Sunday, DeAndre Swift will finish as the number one running back in football this year. If DeAndre Swift continues his production the way that we've seen Sunday, DeAndre Swift is going to be very, very special. I think he's on the cusp of something special, and as long as he can stay healthy, that's the biggest concern with DeAndre Swift, is can he stay healthy? His usage wasn't that high. His percentage of snaps, routes run, his carries was very low considering his output, which is what you want. But that's what I was saying earlier on in some videos in the back was I was talking, DeAndre Swift wants to be a 1K and 1K running back. 1K on the ground, 1K through the air. I just don't see his usage being that high because, again, we have a strong 1-2. You could even say we have a strong 1-2-3 punch because Craig Reynolds is significantly underrated. I'm tired of people disrespecting Craig Reynolds, but hey, you know what? He went to Kutztown because he didn't go to a perennial big powerhouse school. No one's going to give him the respect that he deserves. But hey, man, put some respect on it. Craig Reynolds is a legit number 3 running back, and he's not bad. But our top 2 running backs are special, so unfortunately, DeAndre Swift has a Jamal Williams problem, right? Like Swifty's got a Willie problem. But hey, it's for fantasy that sucks, but for a Lions fan, that's a good problem to have 2, starting caliber running backs that complement each other's play style so well. I think DeAndre Swift is on the cusp of something special this year. If he can continue to, maintain, I'm not saying 144 and 30 every friggin' game, but if you can get 120 yards on the ground, if you can maintain 150 yards of total production all season long with a touchdown, dude, what do you want? What do you want me to say? That'll be an elite performance out of DeAndre Swift. If he can max 150 yards of production every single game for 17 weeks, combined yardage usage, that's what you want. That's elite, man. Hopefully it's not a bunch of checkdowns. Hopefully it's not, Jared Goff broke his earlobe and now Nate Sudfeld is in to take over. You know what I'm saying? Because then it'll just be checkdowns and just bad news bears. But MCDC rolls the dice. We just got to get used to it. Jared Goff is the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. We just got to get used to it until he warms up, which he should have been doing all preseason and camp. And the way that Jared Goff goes is the way our team's going to go. And DeAndre Swift is on the cusp of being special. So those are the takeaways from Sunday's loss to the Eagles. I know it was a loss. I know I shouldn't be this hype about a loss in 5 weeks if we're still losing. I'm not going to be this hype about it. But there was a lot of good that came out of the bad. I know. More victories! Hey, anyway, that's going to do it for me, you guys. I've been Hat and Beard. If you like what you've seen, go ahead and hit like on your way out the door and click subscribe so that you never miss out on any future content. And I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. We'll catch you guys later. See ya. Bye.
Look at this sorry, miserable, squashed thing. Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture?